Okay, I think I'm going to start. It's time. Let's see. Hi, Judy. Thanks for coming. Okay. So, okay. So, I think I'm going to start, and everyone who joins along the way can join in when they get here. And so, first of all, shalom to everyone. I'm Sheva Chaya, and looking forward to learning with you. We're going to learn today about Pesach Sheni, the holiday of second chances, and it's a very, very special holiday. It starts Thursday night, wherever you are, for a full day, and we're going to go through a few different teachings connected to this holiday. We're going to learn from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from Rav Kook, from Rabbi Nachman, from Shlomo, Bezrat Hashem. So if you have any questions, feel free to send something in the chat, and at the end I'll open up the mics. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask there. Okay, so we're going to start. There's a video clip that I saw of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1984, and he spoke about Pesach Sheni, and he said, basically just giving the background of what it is in the first place. So Pesach Sheni means the second Pesach, the second Passover. Why would we need such a holiday? He said, and the people came saying that they didn't want to miss out on Pesach. Certain people were in a position who were not able to do Pesach on time, which is a month ago, which is in Nisan. And so which type of people were not able to bring the Karban Pesach? Anyone who was ritually impure at the time or too far away to bring the Karban Pesach. This is the standard answer to that question. So he goes into this further and brings the Rambam in the Code of Law, the Rambam, and says there are a couple of varieties of people that were in this position more specifically. Okay, a convert who converts between Pesach, the first Pesach, and Pesach Sheni. So when Pesach came along, they had no obligation to bring the Karban Pesach, and the Rambam rules that they do need to bring a Karban on Pesach Sheni. A convert who converts, and the explanation comes from the Midrash Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, that the souls of converts were also present at Har Sinai. So when the Torah was given, anyone who eventually would or does convert to Judaism would receive the Torah then also, meaning that they had the mitzvah of Pesach. But if they hadn't converted yet by the time that Pesach came around, this was already something that their soul had heard. This is something that they needed to do. So, they received the Ten Commandments, and they already received the mitzvah of Pesach. So that's the first example. The second example is a little bit different. It says a minor who comes of age between Pesach and Pesach Sheni. So someone who is before bar mitzvah, I guess, on Pesach, and then has their birthday before, a month later, Pesach Sheni. They also need to bring a Karban Pesach on Pesach Sheni. So before, when Pesach came around, someone who wasn't old, a child who wasn't old enough, he wasn't counted as one of the people who would need to bring a Karban Pesach. So why would he need to bring? He doesn't need to fix something like he missed it, right? So the first example, the examples that we usually hear are people who miss it. They were either too far away from Yerushalayim to bring the Karban Pesach, or they were impure. In this case, he didn't miss anything. It just became something that became something that he had to do in the time after Pesach. So there's a Gemara on Pesach Sheni that says there are two levels of Pesach Sheni. Number one is that it's a restitution for Pesach. It's fixing having missed Pesach, the first Pesach. And the second one is that Pesach Sheni is a celebration in its own right. Right? It's its own holiday, and this comes through with this example of the miner who wasn't obligated to bring a Karban Pesach, and then on Pesach, and then becomes obligated because of his birthday after Pesach and before Pesach Sheni. So this is the Chiddush. And the Rebbe says, coming from the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, he says in this very, very important line, this is the theme behind this whole holiday, saying that no situation is ever completely lost. Right, so we get in a situation a lot of times where we think that it's appropriate to give up for one reason or another. And the truth is that it's just not true. That no situation, no matter what the situation is ever completely lost. There's always hope to return and to come back to connection. So if there's somebody who missed out, so then they can make restitution. They can fix it, right? But there is this new concept coming through that the Rebbe points out. What about somebody who didn't even lose anything in the first place, right? You have this miner, you have someone you have a boy who's 12 years old, and he turns 13 after Pesach. And it's not that he was supposed to bring a Karban Pesach on Pesach. That wasn't the situation at all. He didn't lose out. And yet, he has this great opportunity to bring a Karban Pesach for Pesach Sheni. So Pesach Sheni is bringing in really a new concept, that there's always progress, no matter what, right? There's always progress. So we're taught to walk in the ways of Hashem, meaning always moving, progressing, going forward, not resting, and never, no matter where we are, no matter where we're holding, whether it's that we missed out on something, we have to fix it and connect again, or we didn't even miss out on anything. There's still progress, no matter where a person is, no matter where they've gotten to, there's always progress, and we should never really be satisfied with our present spiritual state. Even if everything seems perfect, there's always further to go. There's always a new month. There's always every time that there's a new month, there's a new spiritual level to attain with that new month. Okay? So the Rebbe brings up another question. Why do we commemorate Pesach Sheni in exile? Right? There's no sacrifices. It's not like you missed out on bringing the Karban Pesach in Yerushalayim. Really, there was no such thing, right? There's no bringing the Karban Pesach in Yerushalayim when we're in exile. And not only that, it's not only that we're not able to bring it, we're not even allowed to bring it, right? There's no Kohen, and there's no altar, there's no way of bringing the Karban Pesach, but on Pesach Sheni, it's really a holiday in its own right. There's no Tachanun. We celebrate. We do something special for it. Even have a festive type of a meal. So it's not only if you lost the chance to do a mitzvah, can you remedy the situation and reclaim what was lost, even if you haven't lost anything. And like the Karban Pesach, there's no obligation really to bring the Karban Pesach now. There's no temple. There's no way to bring it, right? But when this auspicious day comes, we have this concept, which is a really beautiful concept. It comes through with every single holiday, that each holiday has its essence, its koach, its power, what we can get out of it, always and forever. Every single year, the lights of Hanukkah are shining on Hanukkah, and every single year, the lights of Pesach are shining on Pesach, and every single year, the lights of Pesach Sheni are shining on Pesach Sheni. So this is a very auspicious day. This is a day where we are given a second chance to become ourselves again, right? This day is filled with blessings. It's filled with merit. And it says the Arizal that every single year these lights, these great, awesome gifts that we can get from this day are awakened on this day every single year. So it's a really awesome day. It's coming up really soon. We have a lot of blessings to receive, so we should all really receive them fully. So that's just like a little bit of background, getting a sense of what the holiday is. And now we're going to look into some teachings. We're going to go through a little bit, something with Rav Kook, a little bit of Rabbi Nachman, a little bit of Rav Shlomo. We'll see what else comes up. Mizat Hashem. So really, like we just mentioned, this holiday is about being able to really receive an awesome blessing. Awesome blessings are coming down to us all the time. And the question is if we catch them, right? It's like it's raining all the time, and like, do you put out a vessel to receive it? So I was just kind of contemplating this, and this is where whatever sources I picked up, I hope you can, see how they're connected to the idea. But I picked up a few different teachings that I wanted to share that really just reminded me of this this idea of a new beginning, of being able to start again. So the first one we're going to start with is Rav Kook. Okay, Rav Kook is an amazing figure in our history. He was not only the chief rabbi of Israel when Israel came into being, he was also a Kabbalist, he was also a poet. He also was known in incredible realms in terms of, everyone, no matter who they were, religious, not religious, from wherever they were coming from, everybody loved him, which is like a big deal. This doesn't happen all the time. And Rav Kook was very deep. And what I picked out to share from Rav Kook is some teachings about will, right? Because really the underlying question is of whether or not we're going to do what we could do, receive what we could receive in a moment, is if we're willful, if we have a will to do it, right? If we're there, if we're alive and we're full of our ratzon, our goodwill to do something, it opens gates, right? It's gonna happen. So let's hear a little bit about what Rav Kook has to say about the will, about ratzon. He says it's necessary that the general will be developed to its full potency. Meaning, we're born with will. We all have our will. A baby has a will to eat and be taken care of and all of those things. But really, the full level of will has to be developed. It has to be brought out in a person. It's not just a given, right? So it has to be conditioned towards holiness. And he says the customary method of its training is the same for old and young. It's the same for everyone. The will must be enhanced. It must be strengthened, purified, and given a bent to idealism, all at the same time. So this is a very deep thing already, what Rav Kook is saying, right? The will, this is something that really we need to contemplate and work on for every single person. I know it's true for myself, that it's not just a given that our will is alive, and that it's awake, and it's really there on some level. As long as we're here, it's there, but its potency is latent, meaning there's a lot of potential there, and it really needs to be woken up. So it needs to be enhanced, it needs to be strengthened, it needs to be purified and bent towards idealism, meaning we need to believe that really good things are happening, that are coming for us. We really need to believe in what amazing who we really could be. Right? How far we really can go, what our true authentic self is that it really is as beyond and awesome as we can imagine, and probably even more than that. Like, what does it mean to be idealistic? To really, really even be able to dream, right? Okay, so says Rav Kook, there's a principle in the Talmud, in the Gemara, quoted in God's name. It says, I created the evil impulse and I created the Torah as its therapy. That's in Kiddushin. So it says, this also means that the will cannot be perfected in its purity except through the influence of Torah. So we're very blessed. Here we are together. All of us are here together learning Torah. This is an opportunity to awaken and purify and strengthen and bend towards idealism, our will. Right? And he says, if we encounter a God-fearing person who has not studied Torah, it's for us to realize that his will cannot be firm, and for this reason his perfections in life must be weak. The firmness of will is enhanced to the extent that it is affected by the potency of the Torah. Meaning we have a great gift that we can awaken ourselves with, which is the Torah, which is what we're doing right now, is learning. Everybody right now who's involved with this and learning Torah is connecting their will to something much higher than it would go to naturally, right? This is something it's allowing us to really, with leaps and bounds, go to higher and higher levels of which is active in the world. He says, under all conditions, it's important to find the element of good in a person. Even if its light is dim, it must be brightened through Torah and prayer. Okay, and I love this last one. It says, how high can we rise? A person can make his will an active and dominant force in the world, radiating blessings on anyone he chooses, and influencing life according to his aspirations. And it says in Breshit, and be a blessing. You will be a channel of blessing. So one must note clearly this concept of the nature of a person in this world, that a person is controlling the influence of existence. It really matters, right? It really matters. If a person decides that they care and they want to connect and they want to be a blessing and bring blessing to the world, this affects things. This is making things awakened, not only for that person, but for every single person that person affects, okay? So this blessing comes through the way it's basically an outer robe, and we basically need to bring it out and bring it to life. And the way to do so is with our will and with our speech, right? So, okay, so this is an introduction I wanted to share, because really if we're going to go into starting over, which is this great holiday that's coming up tomorrow night, which is, by the way, also the Yortzeit of Rebbe Meir Balanes, and I think it might also be a Rebbe Yehuda Bar Ilai. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is. That this is this wonderful auspicious day to connect to newness, to start over, to be a part of a level of ourselves that we might not have known yet. The more we tap into our will to start over and do this and to be a blessing to the world, the more it's going to happen, the more it's going to come down. Okay, so this is Rav Kook. And now we're going to move towards Rabbi Nachman. Okay. So Rabbi Nachman, as always, is some of my favorite teachings of Rabbi Nachman, is always reminding us about prayer, about connecting with joy. And once again, I'm going to bring sources connected to this, because it is wonderful and awakening. So, like we already said, awakening the will is one step, and prayer is another, right? Prayer is a vessel for receiving blessings, for opening up the gates of our connection to our Creator. And so Rabbi Nachman says here, I'm going to read a little bit inside, in Likutei Moharan. This is lesson number 8, Chet, in the first section of Likutei Moharan, where it talks about kind of awakening towards prayer. He says, Hine yakar gunuche v'nocha, korin kreks me'ish Yisraeli, ki hu shlemut chesronot, ki al yedei b'chinat ha'neshima, shehu aruach chaim nivra ha'olam, kamo shekatuv u'v'ruach piv kol tzva'am. Okay, says Rabbi Nachman, a sigh is very, very valuable and holy and wonderful. And what does it do? When a person sighs, really literally just gives a sigh, makes a sound, not even necessarily saying a word, by sighing, a person is bringing what's called shlemut chesronot. Whatever is missing, that sigh opens up this space to fill it, right? Whatever is lacking can be filled with a sigh. And he says, through breathing, this is bringing ruach hachaim, the breath of life, which is the basis of the creation of the world. The world was created with breath. Kamo shekatuv in Tehillim, v'ruach piv kol tzva'am. V'chidush ha'olam yeh gam kein b'v'chinat haruach, kamo shekatuv. Tishalach ruchacha yibairun v'techaresh panei adama. Says in Tehillim, also with the breath of life. The breath of life is in all of creation, and the chidush ha'olam, meaning the awakening of the world, the reawakening of the world, also comes through breath. As it says also in Tehillim, send your spirit of creation and reawaken, bring newness of life to the earth, to the world. This is also bringing life to a person. Because our life, the basis of our life, is breath, as we know. The breath of life is blown into him. So I always love to bring this up when I'm doing a glass blowing presentation also, and think about it myself, even now these days when I'm doing glass blowing, not as a presentation for people. The breath is life, right? When a glass blower blows into a hot tube of glass, you see the air moving the glass. It brings life, and this is the mashal. This is something we can learn from the analogy of the glass blower, that every single breath, we're literally coming to life with every single breath. When a newborn baby, when a baby is born, the first breath of a newborn baby, everybody understands that they're coming to life with their breath, right? And for some reason, after that first breath, we usually forget. Almost every single breath of our life, we don't really think about it that way. We don't really recognize how awesome every single breath is. But every single breath is as awesome as that first breath, actually. And this is what Rabbi Nachman is bringing here. Every single breath is bringing us to life. K'mo she'amru chachamim, im techsar haneshima, techsar hachayim. נמצא כי עיקר החיות כל הדברים הוא בבחינת רוח, וכשיש חיסרון באיזה דבר, עיקר החיסרון הוא בבחינת החיות של אותו הדבר. So, the sages say, obviously, if there's a lack of breathing, there's a lack of life. And we find that the essence of life is coming from this place of ruach, of breath. And when there's something missing, the essence of what is missing is found in the life of that thing, in the chiyut of the thing, which is the life of everything, is the ruach chaim, which is the breath of that thing, of every single person, and la'asher ruach hu kayem hadavar. Breath brings life to the world. V'anacha hu arichat haneshima. So what is a sigh? So we all know, if we're breathing, we're alive. Basic, everybody knows that. But what is a sigh? A sigh is like a big breath, right? You take a big breath. Everyone could sigh now. Right? Take a big breath and let it out. This is an extra breath, an extra long breath, right? So hu b'chinat erech hapayim, which is an extra long breath in Hebrew. How do we say patient? One way of saying patient, we say Hashem is erech hapayim, that he breathes long, right? If you need to be patient, the best thing, if you're faced with a challenge and it's hard to stay patient in that moment, the best thing to do is take a big deep breath, right? Count to 10. If you count to 10, you're going to breathe a breath, at least one, hopefully, right? And so taking that moment to take one deep breath is connected to sighing, right? Which is connected to ruach, which is connected to the essence of life. Valkein shemit'aneach al hachisaron u'marich rucha hu mamshich ruach chaim lachisaron. So when a person is lacking something, we're all lacking things. Whenever we're lacking something, if we take a moment to take a deep breath and sigh, so we're bringing extra life force, which is the breath, into whatever it is that's lacking in us, right? Anything that's missing inside of us, anything that we're lacking, is a lacking of this spirit of life, the spirit of breath. So by taking a nice big deep breath and sighing, what is lacking is fulfilled. So why did I bring this Torah connected to Pesach Sheni? Because really to take a moment to contemplate. If we're here learning Torah before Pesach Sheni, preparing for it by learning about it, so we can prepare how to really receive it. It's really great lights, like we said in the beginning of the class. Huge, huge, unbelievable lights. A new beginning are coming up in just a few hours. So what's one way to prepare for it? Says Rav Kook, connect to our will, right? Awaken our will. Bend ourselves towards idealism and believe in something bigger. Dream a little bit. And then Rabbi Nachman, bringing this source from Rabbi Nachman, saying, we have this opportunity to prepare for Pesach Sheni by sighing, right? Take a minute and think about what might be lacking, right? It's not so hard. It's easy for everyone. That we have a, that's an easy thing to recognize. We're all missing something. We're all needing things. And to even take a little moment and to sigh over it, to take a minute and take a big deep breath and say, oh, I wish this came into place, right? How many of us now could say, oh, I'm lacking a job, right? I could say that. Sigh over it, right? Open up and take a deep breath, and by taking a deep breath, we're connecting to the Nishmat Chaim, to the life force. Whatever's lacking inside of any of us, taking a deep breath is bringing that life force into it deeper. And thereby, whatever was lacking will get fulfilled. And all the more so on this great, great auspicious day of Pesach Sheni, when we really have a great, great opportunity to start again, to begin again. Like the Rebbe said in the beginning, what we shared, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Friedeker Rebbe, saying this day that is coming up in just a few short hours is a day where we can recognize, and I'll read it again, such a strong and beautiful line, no situation is ever completely lost, right? So no matter what we think, if we think that we're totally off and I have no idea how I'm going to figure out how I'm going to find my soulmate, how I'm going to get Parnasa again and get a job and get my life on track after the world got so shaken up in the past couple of months. So, maybe some people have a connection where they kind of have a sense of always feeling this way. And yet, in these days, it's really clear to everyone. Who hasn't sat home over the past 2 months and had a few moments of recognizing something that they wish they could do, or who they wish they could be, right? To kind of dream about who we really could be. And so this day coming up in just a few short hours on Thursday night is a great opportunity not only to know that no situation is ever last, but to go into it, right? To take a few moments to contemplate, what am I missing? What do I wish would come into place? And to sigh and to take a deep breath and hope for it and direct our will towards it and direct our will towards getting what it is that we're missing, what we're lacking, what we're hoping for. Okay. So, little Rebbe Nachman, let me see if I'm going to do the second one. Okay. So I also think this is beautiful, and it's a short little Torah, so I am going to throw it in there. Says Rabbi Nachman, this is in the still the first section of the Likutei Moharan. This is Ayin Reish Bet. Okay, 272 in Likutei Moharan. Says Rabbi Nachman, Hayom im b'kolo tishma'u. This day, right? And I'm making a big point of pointing out this day because it's a very auspicious day. It's a really awesome moment. It's a day packed with gifts for us. And the more that we really believe that, the more we're going to be able to receive the gifts that are coming to us. Okay, it says in Tehillim, Hayom im b'kolo tishma'u, if today we listen to His voice, Zeh klal gadol ba'avodat Hashem, shelo yasim leneged einav ki im oto hayom. This is a major concept in serving Hashem, in being a spiritual person, says Rabbi Nachman, that we should only put the very day that we're in, this day, before us. This is the only day that there is, right? So this comes up, says Rabbi Nachman, sometimes a person becomes very concerned about Parnasa, about saying, how am I going to make it? Starting thinking forward the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, the next 5 years. And Rabbi Nachman says that really a person should only think about the day that they are in, right? The day that we're not compare it to any other day. V'ken ba'avodato yitbarach lo yasim leneged einav ki im oto hayom v'oto hasha'ah. And in our divine service, in our holy service, in the side of us that is seeking to be a spiritual person, sometimes I think, how am I ever going to learn how am I ever going to say the entire Sefer Tehillim of all of the Psalms? How am I ever going to learn the whole Torah, the whole Gemara? Daf Yomi, if you go through the whole thing, it takes 7 years. How am I going to ever do it? It's overwhelming. How could I do it? But Rabbi Nachman is giving us a very strong piece of advice and direction here in terms of our divine service, of becoming a true spiritual people. There's just today. So if I learn it today and I do the tefillah today, that's awesome. That's all there is. And then a person's really able to enter into their divine service. If we were really to think about everything that we have to do in the next week, in the next month, in the next 6 months, in the next year, we wouldn't be able to handle it. It's really too much. We wouldn't be able to carry it. But if we think about just today, what we can do today, then we can. If we start thinking, oh, I have so much to do and there's so much learning, it's so beyond me, then we'll say, okay, so I'll leave it for tomorrow. It's too much for me. It's overwhelming. But if a person really focuses on today, then they'll do something today, right? And I'm pointing this out right now because we're not only in this day, which is also a very auspicious day, the day before Pesach Sheni, but Thursday night for a whole day. It also happens to be Erev Shabbos, which is very strong. It also happens to be Chesed Shebehod, which is also very strong. This day it's a day packed with treasures. It's a very auspicious day, and we should be present in it, right? We should recognize. We should remember on this day. Today is the day. This is it. I'm living this day. I'm starting over today. There's no situation in the world where it's completely lost. There's always hope. Okay? So now we're going to move into learning a little bit with Reb Shlomo. And Reb Shlomo speaks about going back to the beginning all of the time. Any issues, any challenges, all of our fixings that we need to do in this world are connected to the very beginning. And if we go back to the very, very beginning, we can reawaken everything that we need, right, to live our whole lives. So I'm going to jump right into it here, and I'm gonna read it inside. Feel free to send a chat or something if you have a question. I'd love to hear from you guys also. If something's coming up for you, I'd love to hear. Okay? So the first teaching that I'm going to share from Reb Shlomo, coming from this wonderful book that Shlomo Katz put together, the commentaries of Shlomo Carlebach on Breshit. Okay? The very first Torah that he brings here, he says, this is Reb Shlomo speaking, let's learn a little of the Beis Yaakov. Breshis bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God is telling us that at the beginning, God created heaven and earth. But you know something, friends? You don't have to be God to make such a tremendous statement. When should God have created the world, if not at the beginning? Right? So the first thing we have to know is what the word Breshit means. The Midrash says, in Midrash Rabbah, Breshit does not mean at the beginning. Breshit means because of the beginning. God created the world because of those people who know the secret of beginning. The people who only know the secret of the end, for them the world is a waste of time, right? So a person who knows that we can start over, and really I was thinking about this today, I was saying this to a friend today, we wake up every day, Baruch Hashem, all of our lives that we're in this world, we wake up every day. Why would we wake up every day? Because we have to wake up, right? Because it's a beginning. It's a new beginning. And this is something that, we get into life, we get into the patterns of our lives, and we forget these things. But, I, for example, have a puppy, right? When a puppy wakes up in the morning, how excited is a puppy to be alive in that moment? It's amazing. Every single time, hopping around, so full of life. There's no another day. No puppy would ever say that, ever. So basically, this is, okay. So, I'm just meeting everyone. So this is something that we have, we can really learn something from even just nature, the way that nature wakes up every day. You know, if you're up early, like I'm up early now, it's, 4:30 in the morning, be'erech. And if you have the window cracked open a little bit, around this time of day, the birds are singing. It's totally dark outside, right? It's totally dark outside, but the hints of the newness that is coming, it's there, it's around us. And the world is literally waking up every single day. And so are we, right? So Reb Shlomo is bringing this teaching from the Beis Yaakov, saying, really, the world was created for beginnings. It was created for the people who know what it is to begin, right? So let's be the people who know what it is to begin. So let's go further into this. The Midrash starts explaining what is called a beginning. Israel is called a beginning. The Beis HaMikdash is called a beginning. And Avraham Avinu is called the beginning. Do you know why? Because the world is called a beginning. The world is called a beginning. Okay, so says Reb Shlomo, now open your hearts, friends. When someone is mamish at their end and they can't go on, what should they do? You go out to the forest where the world is the way God created it, and you feel like beginning all over again. Do you know why you feel like this? Because this is how God created the world, with beginnings. The whole world is filled with beginnings. When I'm just so downhearted I don't know what to do, and I open the window and get myself some fresh air, what does this fresh air do to me? Fresh air strengthens the beginning. Right? Another place Reb Shlomo says, when you wash your face, you put water on your face, it's like a total new beginning, right? So these very little simple things that we can do can connect us to the deepest essence of life, and not only our physical life of feeling like, okay, I woke up, I'm stretching, I'm here, I'm alive, but our spiritual life, which is our real life, which is the essence of who we really are, is as long as we're connected to beginning, we're there. Reb Shlomo goes on, why is Yerushalayim so holy? Yerushalayim is so holy because if you just remember Yerushalayim, it gives you strength to begin all over again. Right? So, and I would say also, being blessed to be here in Eretz Yisrael. So part of why I like to and agree to do these classes at these times, which is a crazy time to do a class in Eretz Yisrael because, most everyone here is asleep or they're not going to be on a Zoom class right now. But because I know people in Chutz La'aretz, if you're not in Chutz La'aretz, if you are in Chutz La'aretz, you're not in Eretz Yisrael. And if you are in Eretz Yisrael, you're connected to Yerushalayim. And we're all connected to Yerushalayim in our hearts, no matter where we are. But there's an actual, different reality. Being in Eretz Yisrael, you're in this place that for thousands of years we've been yearning to come here. And for thousands of years we've been praying to rebuild Yerushalayim, right? And then you can come here, and soon, God willing, everyone can come here, and everyone who's not in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel. So, we talked about will in the beginning, what Rav Kook said. So awaken your will to come, awaken your will to at least come and visit. So if you don't decide to make Aliyah in the next day, at least awaken your will to come and visit as soon as possible. Because why? Because this is going to really help us connect to our beginnings, right? Yerushalayim is this ancient place. Everyone in the world knows about Yerushalayim. How could that be? The tiniest little place in the world, Eretz Yisrael, this tiny little humble city. Everybody in the world knows about it. Why? Why is it like that? Because Yerushalayim is the beginning. Yerushalayim, the creation of the world, started there. The awakening of the world will come to that place. Yerushalayim is the heart of the world. Okay, so we're going to go further with Reb Shlomo. He talks about this more. He said, what happened when someone would come to the Holy Temple? The Holy Temple is in Yerushalayim. So here comes a sinner. He's sinned his whole life. His soul is bankrupt. He comes to the Holy Temple, and he comes out dancing. What happened to him? He suddenly received the strength to start all over again. You see what it is. Every word of the Torah can give you strength to live and how to begin again. If it doesn't show you the way, then it has no meaning. Now let's go one step deeper. The word Bereshit can be divided into Beit Reshit, base Reshits, right? Reshit means beginning, and Beit means two beginnings. What are these two beginnings? At the beginning, God created heaven and earth. In order for a person to live in this world, he needs the level of two beginnings. First of all, you need the beginning of humility, like the earth. Okay, so you think about the earth for a second. Everybody steps on the earth, and yet the earth is growing like mad. You also need heaven. So these are the two beginnings. Heaven and earth. Earth, humility. Everyone's always walking over the earth, but all the time the earth is sprouting anew, right? Even when a big fire goes over, God forbid, goes and burns down a forest. So within a year, the forest is growing again. This is nature, right? It's just the earth has this incredible koach, this incredible power to continue to grow and grow and grow. So that's one. And you also need heaven. You have to have something very high about you, because beginnings alone are meaningless. I'm beginning this and I'm beginning that. I'm beginning my business again, and I'll go bankrupt again tomorrow. I have to begin again from the inside. I have to begin inside of the inside. How do I begin? I begin with being humble like the earth, and yet being very high like heaven. It goes together. Now let me ask you something, says Rav Shlomo. What's the difference between walking into the Holiday Inn or walking into my house? Very simple. If it's my house, that means not only do I live there, but in a very deep way, even the walls are related to me. It's almost as if the walls are an extension of my soul. In the Holiday Inn, my soul does not extend as far as the walls. It might extend as far as wherever my guitar is standing. Shlomo. When I'm living in this world, I absolutely have to connect myself to the walls of the world. I have to be connected to the heaven and the earth. The holiness of the Torah is that it connects me to the beginning of heaven and earth. If you meet a business acquaintance, you don't have to connect to their beginning. You meet them, you order your deal, and you go home. But when you love somebody very much, not only do you connect yourself to them from the moment you meet them, you connect yourself to them from the moment they were born. In a very deep way, you miss them since the day they were born. In a crazy way, the world was created over 5,000 years ago, and yet every Shabbos when I make Kiddush, it's like I was there. I saw the recreation of heaven and earth. I go back to the beginning. So you see what it is. The holiness of the Torah is that it connects us to the very beginning of heaven and earth. Okay, so why am I bringing this beautiful Torah from Rav Shlomo? Because we're about to embark on yet another beginning. Pesach Sheni, no matter what happened up to this point, it could have all gone wrong. We could have missed out on everything. We could have not been in a position to do anything yet. And yet, the time has come to start over and to begin again. And so knowing what beginning again is really important, right? Heaven and earth, the humility of knowing, yeah, I really haven't done anything yet. And I've missed out a million times on things that I could have done. And yet, to remember we're so high. We're connected to the beginning. And we're really, I was thinking about this for a minute. We're constantly starting over. If you go through the Jewish calendar, there are 4 New Years, right? There's not just Rosh Hashanah. We're going to get to that in a few minutes. Okay, the most famous New Year is Rosh Hashanah. Comes around in fall time. Everybody knows, right? And apples and honey, and it's a new year. But that's only one of the New Years, right? There's the New Year of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. There's the New Year of Rosh Chodesh Elul, and there's the New Year of Tu B'Shvat, right? So we have 4 New Years in the year officially, and then beyond that, we're starting over, and you start getting into this, and you really go through it throughout the year. You realize, I'm starting over again and again and again, and then there's every Rosh Chodesh. It's a new month, right? When we watch and we pay attention, the moon goes to fullness. It wanes out to the day before the new moon, that darkest day, and we commemorate it. This is the beginning of time. We notice this. Why? Because we notice newness again and again and again. We need to remember again and again and again to start over. And Pesach Sheni is the ultimate day of being able to start over, being able to start again. One of many, but it is the ultimate day, because it came through in such a special way, connected to Pesach, which we're going to get to a little bit more also. Okay, I'm going to jump to another beautiful Torah from Rav Shlomo. And this is from Parshat Toldot. And again, just going... Is that a question?
Could you just repeat one more time the 5 beginnings, if you don't mind?
The Rosh Hashanahs?
Yes, the Rosh Hashanah.
So the 4 Rosh Hashanahs, if I get correct me if I'm wrong, but there's the normal Rosh Hashanah of in Tishrei, right, where we start the new year, And there's the Rosh Hashanah of Tu B'Shvat, which is the Rosh Hashanah of the fruits of the trees. There's the Rosh Hashanah of Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is the month of Pesach. And then there's I believe the other one is Rosh Chodesh Elul, the month before the beginning of the year, the most official beginning of the year of Tishrei, right? And this comes up. It's in. I don't have the source in front of me, so I can't read it directly. But this is this comes up directly. This is a basic source, and yeah. Okay. Good, for sure. Thanks for asking. Okay, so we're going to jump to Parshat Toldot, again looking into beginnings. And this piece is called "What is First by Me?" So says Reb Shlomo, there is 1, 2, and 3, and then there is the first. The Zohar HaKodesh says something very, very deep. After 1 comes 2. After first comes nothing. Something else might come after first, but not the second. First means there is no second. So this is very deep. To read through quickly something like that is not necessarily, the correct way to do. Something to contemplate, but maybe something to maybe jot it down, think about it again later, right? Okay, if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, the numbers 1 comes after the next. But first, the first of something, this is on its own level. There's no after first. Okay, says Reb Shlomo, now listen to me and I want you to open your hearts. It seems like this is a key also to beginning, and Reb Shlomo had this key, like nobody else maybe could say, to open our hearts. This is something that we need to remember. Open our hearts, and then we can awaken our will, and we can connect to beginnings, and we can connect to this day, knowing that all there really is today, and connect to the fact that everything, we're part of Bereshit, we're part of the beginning, heaven and earth, humility, and the highest of everything. Says Reb Shlomo, if you wake me up in the middle of the night and you say, tell me fast, who is the first person you love? I'll tell you. Then you ask me, who's the second? It's not the same thing. After the first, that's it. The first has no second. There are certain things in life that are so deep that if it's not first, forget it. I'm just giving you flashes and I want you to think about it, says Reb Shlomo. You know what a slave is. A slave is someone who's given up on the first. I don't have to be first anymore. I lost it. I became a slave. A master has a first. A slave is somebody who has no first. A slave is always second. Friends, our whole lives are always about seconds, not firsts. We're compromising so much, giving up, giving in. We don't really do what we want to do. We always do what has become our second choice. We never do what we want on our first choice. We're living in a whole world where everybody cuts down our first. Now listen to this, says Reb Shlomo, it's mind-blowing. The Midrash says that God is called first, Reshis. Israel is called first, and the Holy Temple is called first. God cannot be second. If God is second, it's not God you're talking about, only first. If you, so to speak, ask God, who's your first? God will say Yidden. If you ask God, who do you love the most? Yidden. If you ask Yidden, who's your first? They will answer God. You know what the Holy Temple is? The Holy Temple is that place which connects you to that first. The destruction of the Holy Temple means that our first is a little bit destroyed. Why are we in exile for so long? We can't get it together with our first. Right, so I'm just going to interject here for a second. We're just right before Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is really, again, reminding us of the temple. Why? Because Pesach Sheni comes after Pesach. 1 month after Pesach. What was Pesach? Pesach is one of the Aliyat HaRegel. There are 3 times a year where we're supposed to go to Jerusalem and go to the temple and show our faces, right? Bring our sacrifices in and reconnect. And in order to do that, we really need a temple, which is what we were talking about before. And says the Bavitcher Rebbe, if there's no temple, why do we still need to, do Pesach Sheni? Because there's an inherent energy in this day connected to what it was like to be able to come and bring a sacrifice at the temple. So Reb Shlomo's bringing up here, if the temple is the first and we don't have the temple, this is part of why we're feeling lost. This is part of why we feel the way we feel. And yet, it can't be. There is no temple yet in Yerushalayim. It should be rebuilt right away. It should be rebuilt today. But if it's not there, we still have to know it. We still have to build a temple in our hearts. We still have to recognize that really, if you say Yerushalayim is the heart of the world, So it's true. Yerushalayim is the heart of the world, and each of us has a heart, right? So the heart of we have a heart. We have the most central point in ourselves, and that's also Yerushalayim, right? And that's also where we can build the temple. And if we're opening our hearts and we're connecting to our hearts, we're connecting to this temple, even though the temple might not have come down to the world yet in this world where we can actually bring sacrifices directly to the temple. We have a connection to the temple always and forever, even until it comes through, right? We're waiting. Going back into what Reb Shlomo says. When we first came out of Egypt, God says to Moshe, "Ha-chodesh hazeh, this new month, rishon hu lachem, let it be first unto you." It has a million meanings, but I'm going to share one with you. The question is very simple. Is there anything in your life which is first? Is there anything in your life that's so important that it is your first? If you don't have a first, you're in the lowest exile. You might be doing everything right, but is there something so deep inside of you which is first? Let's say I have 2,000 friends. Okay, so Reb Shlomo said this before days of Facebook where people actually, have like 5,000 friends on Facebook, but, he's a visionary. Let's say I have, 10 million friends, whatever it is, the people with their, 5 million followers. It's beautiful. But is there one person who's first? If you have 2 million books in your library, do you have one book that is first? If you don't have it, then you have exile, the lowest exile. What's so special about our generation? I think it's very, very deep. People want to go back to their first. Why do we have so much trouble with schools today? They're not connecting us to our first. I want somebody to give me my first. I want religion, not religion that teaches me that God is number 685. I want to go to a house of prayer where God is first. Now again, listen to this, says Reb Shlomo. Every person has a first. The question is, what is first by you? Are holy things first? Are important things first? Or is the stock market first? Friends, you can do everything right. Keep every law in the world. If the stock market is first by you, then you're mamish in the lowest exile. You can have your own 747 and travel around the world with millions in your pocket, but if you don't have a first, you're the lowest slave. And here, friends, this is the whole thing about our parsha, about the birthrights. This is the parsha of Toldot, of the birthright. Again, a first, right? The beginning of passing over the birthright. Yaakov and Esav were fighting over who was the firstborn. But what were they really fighting about? They weren't fighting over who came out first. Yaakov wanted to establish the world that the first thing is God. The first thing is to be holy. What is first by Esav? Having good time, running around. You see, Esav never said he didn't want to serve God. But let's first have a little soup, right? Maybe after that I'll have some time to serve God, a little bit later. First, what is first by you? Now listen to me, sweetest friends. What is the deepest sign that you're connected to your first? The deepest sign is that you begin to grow again. Second and third don't grow. First, Gewalt does it grow. Okay, so this is a point that I also want to just take a moment. If you have a pen, write it down. Think about it again a little bit later. Think about it on Pesach Sheni. That really, we have this opportunity to start over, to start again. It's true every day, but Pesach Sheni it's an incredible open gates for beginning again, for getting another chance on whatever subject it is, whatever you dream about, who you really want to be, to really find your true soulmate, to really do work that is meaningful to you, to really make a change in the world, to really do something that matters with your day, with your days, with your nights. And so this is an essential key. It's a secret to connecting to beginning again, is knowing what's our first, what really matters to me, right? And it's an opportunity. Why would we bring a Korban Pesach in the first place? Because we're recognizing that God took us out of Egypt and we are connected to God. So this is something that we need to, we say that a person needs to remember every single day that we left Egypt. Why would we need to remember that every single day? If it happened, like it's a historical event on my timeline of my life, it happened, it's over, whatever. That's not the type of thing that leaving Egypt is. Leaving Egypt is something that we're doing over and over and over again. And if we're not doing it over and over again, we're asleep. We're not there. But we have the opportunity to do it over and over again. And Pesach Sheni is it's like the ultimate example of this, because not only did Pesach come and we had the opportunity to recognize, here Hashem is my first, I'm doing a Seder, I'm bringing Korban Pesach, I'm eating matzah, I'm recognizing Hashem brought us out of Egypt and He's our God, and we're born from this place, we're alive from this place. Not only that, even if I missed it, even if I wasn't old enough to bring a Korban Pesach in that day, even if I converted in between Pesach and Pesach Sheni, it wasn't even shayach to me before, I still get to do it, right? And that's true for all of us on whatever level, whoever we are, whatever we've been through, wherever we're holding now. We have the opportunity to start again. And part of doing that is like, we have, you back in the days of radio, you had to like adjust the radio to get the station, right? So people know what radio is? Yeah, everybody knows, I hope. Okay, you can look it up after if you know. But sometimes, you reset the internet, you reset the Wi-Fi, that it's like really on, it's strong, I have a strong connection, right? So that strong connection, sometimes the Wi-Fi is really low. It's like you can hardly get a connection, things aren't streaming well, it's stopping. Why would that be? Why could that be happening? Maybe I'm not quite aligned to who I really am, to who I really need to be. So how do we realign? How do we find out who we really are? Take a minute often and think, what really is my first? Who is my first? What do I really care about? What do I want to do with this life? What do I want to do with this day? And then that's the beginning. And like Reb Shlomo says, I'm just going to say this last line one more time. So beautiful. What is the deepest sign that you're connected to your first? The deepest sign is that you begin to grow again. Okay, so when you see yourself growing, some new things are sprouting up. I'm becoming something new. I'm starting new things. This is a good sign. We're connecting to our first. Okay, Shenizke, we should do it. Okay, so let's see how we're doing with time here. I want to see where I should go next. Okay. So there's one more thing I want to throw in that really just by hashgacha prati, this jumped in to this lesson. I literally opened it right before I started the class and realized it's beautiful and perfect for what we're learning. It's another teaching of Reb Shlomo, but this is this wonderful book Tzvi Ritchie put together. Rabbi Nachman says I guess you can't really see that, the teachings of Rabbi Nachman taught by Reb Shlomo Carlebach. And this one is Rosh Hashanah. So you might have noticed all the theme of everything that I picked to learn about Pesach Sheni is kind of like all over the place, all these ideas, but connecting to beginnings, right? The beginning of from so many angles. So Rosh Hashanah, one of the beginnings. Says Reb Shlomo, one of the most important aspects of Rosh Hashanah is not to say bad things about another person. As you want God to give you a chance, also give everyone else a chance to begin again. So my dearest brothers and sisters, it's only after Rosh Hashanah, when our beginning is so strong, when we get a taste that our inside has never been blemished, that we can go to the holy cleaner, the master of the world, who takes out all the stains from our hearts and the dust from our souls. And he's doing it while we're singing and dancing. On Yom Kippur, we tell him all of our mistakes, because we now already have so much inner strength. Please, please give each other strength. Don't ever stop giving compliments to each other, and most of all, give compliments to your children, whose self-confidence depends on you. And if you don't have children, so give compliments to children, even if they're not your own. On Rosh Hashanah, every second counts like 1,000 years. Our holy master Reb Nachman says, the greatest gift we can give someone is to give him back his self-confidence. When we make a mistake, not only do we do wrong, but our soul also is shriveling and we look down on ourselves. A whole year of mistakes, gewalt. How do we look at ourselves? It doesn't take much to give up on somebody else, but to give up on ourselves is always Federal Express. To have the guts to really begin again takes a lot of inner strength. So on Rosh Hashanah, the holiest day of beginnings, we don't mention our mistakes in order to have the strength to stand before God like newborn babies. And I would just interject here, Rav Shlomo was talking about Rosh Hashanah, but here we are, Erev Pesach Sheni, where it is also the holiest day of beginnings. There's probably a few of them tied for first place. And we have to just recognize no matter what I've done, no matter what has happened up to this point, there's hope. There's hope for me to become who I really am, and there's hope for me to begin again. And we can stand before Hashem like newborn babies. When a baby is born, they've done nothing wrong. They're pure. And that is true about us, and how much more so on Pesach Sheni. Our holy rabbis teach us that the sound of the shofar is the sound of our innermost soul and heart, and also the sound of a newborn baby. It's everything. It wakes up us. It wakes us up. It gives us strength. It reminds us how holy we are, and how holy we can be, and also how close we are, and how easy it is to be the best and most exalted. So this is a note that Reb Shlomo wrote, a letter that he wrote. He says, blessings and love, Shlomo. So it's a letter that he wrote. He would write to his Chevre a beautiful letter for Rosh Hashanah. So an important, little nuance on the point there that Reb Shlomo brought through in the end of this class, saying not only is this beginning for me, it should also be the beginning of how I look at other people, and it should also be the beginning of me believing in other people and giving other people another chance, seeing the good in each other like I like to bring out in every class, taking an effort, taking a moment to not only find the good in ourselves and believe in our newness, and that we can really become our true authentic selves, which is much higher than we can even dream, but to dream as high as we can and then know that it's even further than that, and to look at other people that way also, and to give them a chance, and to see the good in them, because like Rabbi Nachman says, if I find the good in another person, wherever they have fallen and they're in a bad place, they're not even there anymore, because I saw the good in them. I brought them to that good place. So we should be zoche this Pesach Sheni to really begin again, to really believe it matters that we do this, to awaken our will to do this, like Rav Kook says, to recognize it's this day, there's only this day, right? This is the day. And the opportunity on this day is just monumental. It's huge, and we should take it. We should make the most of it, and bring ourselves and bring each other and the world to the highest places, to the great redemption that we're all hoping for. It should come down. Amen. So I want to open the mics if anyone has any questions. Then
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
It's Judy. I'm in Toronto. Beautiful story.
Thanks.
Beautiful shir. The question is, I've learned in the past that on Pesach Sheni, what we're to do is to eat matzah, and matzah that's kosher from Pesach. What else do we do Pesach Sheni?
So I mean, from what I read in the Pesach Sheni is a day where it's kind of like, I don't know, Isru Chag type of a vibe, where you do something special. It has all of the elements of Pesach Rishon in it, and it's an opportunity to reconnect. So dress up a little bit, eat something special, have a Suda even. It's not like an official mitzvah that you have to do these things, but the more we get into it, the more it's real, like we were learning. So it's a real opportunity. So eat matzah, and maybe make a l'chaim, and learn something. Learn something about yourself, and like we said, take a moment to think. What do I? Rabbi Nachman said if he had known about Hitbodedut when he was younger, he never would have done all of these intense things. I'm gonna mute everyone. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna mute everyone again. Okay, I'm muting everyone again so you guys can hear me. And if someone has a question, just unmute yourself. It's a nice thing to unmute people, but it doesn't always work. So anyway, so going back, Rabbi Nachman says that you have this opportunity to connect to the beginning through recognizing that it's one day, this is the only day, and through prayer, right? No matter what day it is, and it being an extra auspicious day, being Pesach Sheni. So if I take a few moments to do Hitbodedut, and I did want to bring this up in the class, I'm glad that you asked, I'm not sure why it's sparking this, but Rabbi Nachman says, when you do hitbodedut, and I've brought this up before, but it's such an important point. It's something to really remember every single day. That when I do hitbodedut, how do you do hitbodedut? You tell your story, right? You say, oh, I was born on this and this day in this place, and then from there, move forward and tell the story of your life. And if a person does that, one idea will lead to another, and you'll get to what you really need to talk about with Hashem. It'll come up. So just by talking, kind of telling, your autobiography a little bit to start, one thing will spark another, and it's a great opportunity on Pesach Sheni to reconnect, right? To take a little moment to do hitbodedut and to pray for all of those things that we, what we really want, how we really want the world to look for ourselves, for each other, for the whole world. It's a very, very auspicious day. I'll say one other little thing. So that I mentioned in the beginning, it's the yortzeit, the hilula of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. He's buried in Tiberia, and Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes was famous for miracles. His very name, Meir Baal HaNes. And there's a segula to say, Elokad Rabbi Meir, Aneni, Aneni, right? And there's a whole story behind that I'm not going to get into now, but if you want to know the story, I can send the source after. But Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, he was asked to be buried standing up, right, like in an upward position. Usually when someone's buried, they're laying in the ground. He was buried standing up, and if you go to his kever in Tiberias, you see it's a very tall kever because they put it facing up. Why would it be facing up? Because he was always praying, and the Amida, the main prayer, is called the Amida. I'm standing, right? I'm standing in prayer. So the great, one of the strongest things to do is that Rabbi Nachman said, if he had known when he was young the strength of hitbodedut, how powerful it is to just stop and recognize, I am here in this world. I'm here connected to the Creator of the world. I can talk to the Creator of the world about everything, like it's my best friend, and say from the beginning to the end, I can tell my story, and I can ask for everything I need, and I can also complain about anything that's bothering me. And through that experience of just opening my heart and opening my mouth and speaking to the Creator directly, personally, this breaks through all barriers. It gets us to the highest places, beyond, rolling in snow and fasting every other day and all of that type of stuff. To break the body, this passes through all of the gateways to the highest place. So that's what I would say. I'd say celebrate it with, make it a special day. Do something special, and for sure pray. Any other questions? You can unmute yourself if you want. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really enjoyed learning with you. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll do it again. We have another class coming up, basically Erev Lag BaOmer, which is really soon, in a few days. So come back. We'll learn some more. And be blessed.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your preparation. The Machaya.
B'simcha. Thanks. Thanks, Jonah, for the inspiration to.
I really learned a lot.
Good.
Thanks for being awake at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I like these hours. Baruch Hashem. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for waking us up. Good night. Good morning.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next time. Tada. Bye. Bye.